When did you decide to start monetizing your podcast?
That's a good question. I decided, see, this is hard taking, and this to me goes into like the nuance of the fear and why people don't start things, because it's so out of context, because the world, the podcast space, the world in general has changed from then, right? And so I would tell people, yeah, don't think about monetization, but it was like week 3. FreshBooks emailed me, hey man, can I like sponsor your show? And I was like,
FreshBooks, Mike Dermott, right?
Right, exactly. And I was like, oh, and like figuring out like, how do you do a sponsorship? What's a sponsorship contract? And they ended up sponsoring me for like a year and a half or something. It just kept, and so it's not like that anymore. And so it's hard to have that conversation because there's people listening and it's like, oh, I would love to do that too. It's like, yeah, well, unfortunately you missed that train of, not that it can't happen. It's just, it's probably not going to happen in week 3 unless you're Conan O'Brien.
Sure.
Right. That's to me a huge thing that's changed in podcasting.
So what are sponsors looking for right now? Is there like minimum downloads? Like what are they, what stats are they looking for?
So sponsors to me, and I only know from my own experience.
The reason why I'm bringing this up, I have a lot of my friends that want to do this on the side.
Yeah.
And they're talking about sponsors. They ask me, but I'm like, I'm in a position I don't care.
Right.
You know, so I'm like, I'm building a podcast to get sponsors.
Right.
You know, you're like, I don't fucking need it. That doesn't mean I'm not going to have sponsors. But the ones who have a plan from the get-go to have sponsors, like for me, it's like, okay, I've never dealt with sponsors. They never dealt with sponsors. You have, like, and you're correct. Time has changed. Like when you started, it wasn't that saturated. It wasn't that crazy. You know what I mean? Now it's like, fuck, like I said, everyone's having a podcast, right? So what currently today, what are they looking for?
They're looking for an audience that's niche market specific. And I mean, I'm talking from the DIY small podcasters, which I'm one of them, right? I'm not the Rogans of the world and stuff, right? Those guys play on a different field that I don't know how that works, but with mine, people basically want to come in and test. I'll only allow people to test 3 episodes minimum because there's a lot of just getting them up and running. And they just want to know that, like, to me, you can have fewer and fewer and fewer downloads down to the hundreds if you have a very, like, product managers for
super niche, yeah.
I have 350 of those, and it's like, whoa, like a couple companies are just like, whoa, I will pay you. Like, you know what I mean? Because they know what a customer's worth to them. Yeah. So there's that. There's a lot within the marketplace of lots of people just throwing it at the wall, seeing what works. Like at podcast advertising, it's like they know that it works for a lot of companies, but it doesn't also work for a lot of companies. And so it can be hard in that way. But as a podcaster, it's just sales.
Yeah,
and I know a lot of podcasters don't want to hear that, but I feel like I could almost sell podcast advertising for anybody's podcast. As long as it's good, as long as it's got some sort of an audience, and as long as it really focuses in on somebody, then outreach, sell. Outreach, sell. And then it's somewhat of a numbers game at that point. And again, I don't have to deal with any of that. I have a sponsor page and people just come through the door and ask to buy, and we're sold out till the end of the year. It's just how it is. And it just, that's not fair, but it's the way it works. And then beyond that, it's just like a basic contract that you can find on Panda Docs or whatever. There's like sponsorship podcast, sponsorship documents at this point. That part's easy, but it is sales, right? It's like real estate, because there's no other show that's exactly your show that exists. There's only one, and it's only worth what somebody will pay for it. And so if you can sort of make that sale, make that pitch, and focus on them and their audience and making it work for them, then they'll do it. And then beyond that, you have to then hold up your end of the bargain, which is you have to try and get them as many customers as possible. So you should get a unique code of some sort, because otherwise they can't track it. You should get a unique URL that actually says hi to your listeners. It works way better for people. If they're not willing to do that, it's not going to work and they're going to blame you for it. And that doesn't matter, but it's kind of just, it's a shitty situation to be in. And so just make sure you have those things, a decent contract, and just go out there and be told no a bunch of times until somebody's like, all right, sure.